2019 is drawing to a close, so what better time to look back at the year that Nintendo has had. I'm Lucy James, joined by Tomo Hussein.
Hello.
And Callie Plaguey.
Hello.
It's time to grade that company. Like that's a weird new game show.
Like
a game show,
that
yeah.
I'm starting. Let's start by talking about Nintendo's exclusives. They have had a great year, I would say, in terms of things like Pokemon Sword and Shield, Fire Emblem, Mario Maker 2, Astral Chain, I've already said Fire Emblem,
Luigi's Mansion,
yeah. Yoshi's Crafted Worlds. What were the big standouts for you? Callie, let's go with you.
Well, I would definitely say Pokemon. Mm-hmm. It is a bit top of the mind because it just came out. It's the most recent one, but
it's all anyone is talking about.
It's been doing very, very well too, commercially, which is, it attracted a lot of controversy, I think, before release, which is always interesting because, you haven't played the game yet. You don't actually know what it's going to be like when you get it. And so I think pre-release controversies can always be a little, not indicative of much at all, except for public opinion. And in this case, I think Nintendo really, or Game Freak as well, really delivered a fantastic first hardcore Pokemon game on console. We had Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee last year. A very different kind of Pokemon game than this. Those were specifically billed as, they're main series Pokemon games, but geared toward a more casual audience. And these are the hardcore ones, and they are so clearly geared towards the competitive audience, with tons of quality of life fixes, small things that make a huge difference in the life of a competitive player, without forgetting the people who just like to play Pokemon. And it is a fantastic journey. Like the Dynamaxing in those gyms is so exciting. You get the people cheering for you. I saw a tweet that was every other Pokemon game you went into the back of a Planet Fitness and beat up some adult.
Some kid.
Some teenager. And in this it's really bombastic and exciting, and it fits the TV, the transition to TV as well, I think, really well. So yeah.
I saw a video of someone who had taken that crying meme and said what it feels like to live next to a Pokemon stadium, and it's just the distant sound of the music from a stadium.
It's like living next to a football stadium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think it was really successful. I don't need every Pokemon in my Pokemon game. I liked that it was manageable. I think it made the main story more manageable. And yes, there are Pokemon I miss, but I was just so charmed, and I am still playing it. I really love it. I'm over 100 hours in, getting Pokemon ready. It's the most accessible competitive it's ever been, and I think people are getting interested in it for the first time, properly, because before there were just too many barriers to entry, and almost all of them are gone now. So just a fantastic first step for Pokemon onto Switch, so a new platform, but also properly on consoles.
Tam, what was your standout exclusive this year?
I'm gonna go with Luigi's Mansion 3, just because that's a franchise that I feel like a lot of people like, but it doesn't get the same kind of mainstream or even put on a pedestal in the same way that a Smash Brothers would, or a new Mario game would. It's always been trucking along, and it's quietly one of the most charming video game experiences that you can have. Luigi is a incredibly lovable dork, always walking in the shadow of his older brother, but in these games given a little his own time to shine, and boy does he. He's got his little vacuum poltergust and is sucking up ghosts. And the first one was on the GameCube, was a really good game, and then they followed it up with Dark Moon on the 3DS, which was not as perhaps sharply delivered.
It was almost too geared towards the handheld, because Professor Gad's interrupting you constantly, and it's I'm going to be sitting here playing this for 3 straight hours. You don't have to interrupt me.
Exactly. And this felt a little more considered in terms of how they designed it, where it's got the levels and each one's got a theme, so you can come at it play one floor a day and kind of progress up the tower. You've got really interesting ways to kind of almost combat ghosts and solve puzzles with the new kind of gameplay interactions. And then you have Luigi, who feels like a interesting character in itself, but also a valuable addition for anyone who wants to kind of team up. Interesting puzzle potential there, and mechanically speaking, and you can do interesting things with the character if you're, regardless of whether you're playing alone or with someone else. But unlike a Mario game where you're just collecting coins or helping another player along, or you feel like you're babysitting a character, Luigi feels like, or you give it to someone else and they'll feel like they're genuinely playing the game alongside you. And then it's just Luigi being Luigi, which is fun. It's like a scared little boy.
The year of Luigi lives on in our
Always
hearts,
in our hearts,
in our minds.
Yeah, just doing what he can. Secretly the most brave character in the Mario universe. Getting stuff done. Rescuing his friends.
And it's just, I love the like spooky, cute. I love cute spooky as an atmosphere. Luigi's Mansion has always nailed that, but it's always fun.
It's a great game. Like, I highly recommend it for the Switch.
We had so many other great exclusives. Obviously, Nintendo taking Link's Awakening and bringing it to a modern audience. Astral Chain from Platinum Games. Mario Maker 2, which has been infuriating people all year long. If you watch some of the Twitch streamers. My personal exclusive favorite, just because it's kind of slightly out there, love Fire Emblem. Could talk for hours about Fire Emblem. My favorite so far has been Ring Fit Adventure, because it kind of picks up where Wii Fit left off. However, as someone who doesn't exercise, and I don't like the gym, I find it very intimidating being able to work out in my own home with something that's accessible and not as clinical and sterile as I think Wii Fit was. Very white, a lot of scales, a lot of just kind of sucks all the fun out of exercise. Whereas I think Ring Fit Adventure is very accessible and just a lot of fun. And that, what is it, the Ring Con?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's got so much resistance. Like I was working out last night and this all hurts today. I was doing squats, that all hurts today. And it feels like I'm actually getting a proper workout, but I don't have to deal with, it's the kind of the perfect bridge to get me from not working out to actually maybe down the line going to a gym.
Yeah.
But it sounds like, from what you've told me, the workout it could be good enough that you wouldn't even have to go to a gym.
Yeah,
which
I
is
just said it on
intriguing
casual.
to me.
Yeah,
you said it on Extreme.
I did it on Extreme, and I'm someone who does go to the gym reasonably frequently, and it's challenging enough just because it requires different levels of intensity. It mixes it up in a way that perhaps, unless you're very conscious of what you're doing at a gym, you may not do. A lot of people autopilot at the gym, and whereas this is like mixing up the exercises, the intensity, how long you're doing them. It's keeping an eye on your form and your posture, and it will tell you, hey, you're trying to cheat it here, and I know you're doing that, or like you didn't complete the motion properly, and it's doing it within the framework of an RPG, so that you don't fixate on the fact that you're doing exercise. You're just kind of focused on playing a game and beating a boss or defeating an enemy, and at the end result is, like yesterday I was dripping with sweat and out of breath, and in the same way that it would been, like, I've had personal trainer sessions that were less intensive than that. And those are way more expensive.
That's another thing, is you're getting a lot of bang for your buck there.
Yeah, and then it integrates into your life in various ways and allows you to play it or do exercise without actually engaging with the game itself, and you can like watch some TV or whatever it may be, play a different game.
Yeah, which is exactly what you do with the Switch anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
That makes no sense.
It's an interesting game.
Yeah. Before we move on, I do want to give a quick shout out to Fire Emblem, though.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want us to skip over Fire Emblem, because Fire Emblem genuinely was one of my favorite games on any platform all year. Just such a great evolution for the series. Tons of customization. I've put in like over 200 hours so far. I don't want us to forget Fire Emblem.
No.
It's just a really dense game to talk about, and we don't have time to like really break it down, I think.
It's the most rewarding gameplay loop of any game I've played this year.
Yeah.
Hands down. Like constantly being rewarded for doing things, even just like chatting to people, having relationships go up, seeing grades improve.
Learning more about people is its own reward, but also seeing those meters tick up is just chef's
Little
kiss.
Dopamine rushes every time.
Yeah.
Bernadette, best go.
No, Hilda.
I don't know. I like Bernadette. Yeah, okay.
She's pretty good.
Yeah, she's great. But Hilda, still for best girl.
I like Hilda too.
So a great year for exclusives. Let's talk about some ports that maybe made it over. I would say with less success. I'm thinking particularly of Overwatch here. So Tamor and I play an obscene amount of Overwatch. We used to play on PC. We now play on PS4 with a different crew. It's not. I mean, Overwatch and Switch is not going to be the way I play.
Yeah, it's
one of my favorite games of all time. It's just not the same.
Yeah, it's like a desperate situation. I'm dying for some Overwatch right now.
Just need a hit of that Overwatch.
I need a hit of that Overwatch, and then you find the configuration that works for you. For me, it was with the kickstand and headphones, and then a pro controller like crouched over it.
When you wrote that in your impressions, I was like, that is back problems. I am picturing this.
I will sacrifice my body for Overwatch when I need to. But yeah, it's serviceable, which is surprisingly, like, I didn't expect it to be as playable as it, or like as enjoyable as it is. Perhaps not playable, but once you find that thing that works for you, you do kind of feel like, yeah, I'm playing Overwatch.
Yeah.
And you forget for a little while that you're playing on a Switch.
But then the online stuff is not as good. Like,
yeah, it's sketchy at times, but like when it works, it scratches the itch. Yeah. You get the hit that you want out of it. But yeah, it's not the ideal way to play, but as a kind of secondary option for when I'm out and about and desperate.
Really need to.
Yeah, or if I'm on the... No, I'm not going to carry on that.
You're going to say on the toilet, weren't you?
On the toilet.
And also
Pushing
The Witcher
payloads.
3. Pushing payloads. Witcher 3 as well. It's not going to be the way that I play The Witcher. I played it on PS4 Pro. I wish I had a PC powerful enough to have that beautiful world as it was truly intended.
It is so beautiful.
But huge props to CD Projekt for getting a game of that size and scale onto something like the Switch.
With all the DLC, too.
All the DLC. And it's still, like, obviously they've had to make some compromises to get it on there. It's still The Witcher. It's like, it's still that 150-hour plus game on the go. That's incredibly impressive.
It's a little muddy. You don't get Bathtub Geralt in all his full glory, maybe,
There's
but
still some glory.
But the rest of what makes The Witcher 3 so great is still there. You know, it's a little different than the Overwatch situation where you're missing certain key things that make Overwatch so great. But The Witcher, it's not like no one's like it's so great because the trees look very nice.
Yeah.
I mean, I love Geralt, but I would say there's lots more going for that game besides Geralt's beauty. So
Bathtub scenes.
The writing is intact, is what we're saying.
Right, like it's not like you can. The writing is not as muddy as the visual.
Yeah.
Hey. And also, I mean, Dragon Quest though, maybe breaking that mold.
That one I think is that's where it's definitive on Switch.
Yeah.
I mean, you get the orchestral soundtrack, you get the I think maybe it's 16-bit. You get kind of like the 2D version that lets you play the game like maybe faster than you would in 3D. It's a different take on it.
It looks really nice on that screen as well.
Yeah, just that I think a lot of people would argue is the way to play Dragon Quest XI. So that was a big win for Switch ports for sure.
We also had changes to Switch Online. So Super NES games now available to play.
Yeah.
Are you guys taking advantage of that?
Not yet. I think
it's nice to have.
It's nice to have just as a function of having to play newer games first for work. Revisiting older games is definitely like a winter break, a holiday sort of activity. Thanksgiving is getting ready for Game of the Year, but winter break, full winter break, you can get a solid week of playing old games. And that's always fun. So I might dip into it then, but it is nice to know it's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did my regular check-in with Super Metroid, I believe, on that. Played maybe like 3 or 4 hours of it, and yeah, it's for people who are perhaps more actively engaged with reliving nostalgia and playing classic games. It's incredibly valuable because
it's preservation.
Yeah, it's preservation. It's
and
there,
making it accessible.
Yeah, and Nintendo are doing cool things with it. Like they give you ROM hack style kind of different variables to game experiences that you're already familiar with, and challenge you in different ways to play it, adding online to some, and providing new opportunities to play the same games that you may have for years and years and years in different ways and fresh ways, and even the convenience of it. Like sometimes you just feel like I want to play a Super Nintendo game, and if it's there, you're basically paying for the online service, and that's kind of like a really nice bonus to have.
It is
And
a
it's
very
super
nice
cheap.
bonus.
Compared to everything else, it's like maybe the cheapest one.
Yeah.
Do we think, I mean, clearly the tide is turning. They're slowly sunsetting the 3DS. It feels like they've been sunsetting that for years.
Yeah.
It does feel like that. I think, you know, from my perspective as a Pokemon player, I would say Pokemon was kind of like the last bastion. There was still stuff coming out on 3DS last year.
Oh, yeah.
And the year before, but that
Stuff's
was like
still coming out for the Wii.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it's dead. I love my 3DS. There are games I'm going to revisit on my 3DS, and I will definitely be turning it on and transfer my Pokemon to Pokemon Home when it hopefully comes out at the beginning of next year. But it is honestly, I have a new 3DS, like the regular size one, because I wanted those faceplates. It's a little hard to go back to that screen after looking at a Switch for 2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
I keep mine with me at all times for Fire Emblem. Awakening. It's always in my bag.
I always have Fire Emblem Awakening, and I have like a 3DS.
Yep.
I have all my Pokemon games in Fire Emblem Awakening.
It's very good for that. So I won't be getting rid of mine, but I mean, at this point, it makes sense to sunset it. And even now, that library of games is absolutely phenomenal.
I think one of the best libraries.
Yeah, like even though they've sunsetted it, now it's still the perfect time to buy a 3DS and invest in that library. Some classic games and a lot of games that are now on Switch in terms of new entries in the franchises, but still valuable to play interesting games like fun versions of Pokemon and Fire Emblem and Animal Crossing and Mario and
Nintendo does have a good like shelf life on their games.
Oh, yeah.
Those games age well a lot of the time, and that's no exception. But it does make sense to start pivoting. Like there's games you want to see come to, like if they put Awakening, if they like made spruced it up and put it on Switch, we'd go buck wild.
Yes.
You know?
100%.
We got, so in terms of sunsetting the 3DS, we've also had a new version of Switch hardware. We had the Switch Lite. Did you guys get one?
I don't have one yet. However, I've messed around with one because I intend on getting one. I was kind of thinking, what if they released an Animal Crossing version when Animal Crossing comes out? Because I really like the Animal Crossing handhelds they've had in the past with the 3DS. But I'm actually tempted. I might just get the be like, Mom, this is what I want for Christmas, because we still do that in my family, and be like, I want the teal one because it's so nice. It's the form factor.
Yeah.
It's so much lighter, literally, and it's easier on your poor wrists when you're me and you're playing Pokemon for hours on end, or Fire Emblem. Well, we'll get to that, but it's easier on your body. I value that. Not having it docked. I mean, I mostly play my Switch handheld anyway. I would never want to get rid of the version that can be docked. Yeah. Like I would always think of this as a secondary version, but having it, when I'm at my parents' house, I don't even bring my dock. Like I could just bring my Switch Lite. You have a little bit of a battery boost there. The screen is beautiful. The only thing is the text size on some games, Fire Emblem definitely being one of them. That game I was already squinting to see stuff on my regular
Playing
Switch.
like this.
Yeah, just playing like I'm wearing my glasses, even though I don't normally wear my glasses to play Switch. That's one thing that that's more of a I wish games had text size options. But overall, just like a very beautiful, well-made piece of hardware that's definitely worth adding as a supplementary piece if you can afford it and if that's something you're interested in.
I mean, part of me is interested just to kind of keep one at home, but I think they still need to sort out cloud saves. That's
too.
still not clear.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Yes.
I don't want to invest in a piece of hardware if I'm not completely confident in the ability to quickly swap between the two.
Absolutely. I mean, that's my biggest hang up is I wish, if it worked like PS4 saves where I was uploading it and then downloading it and it was seamless like that, or largely seamless would be one thing. It's a little rough around the edges on that. And that's kind of a Nintendo thing, right? Yeah. That's kind of just how they roll with online stuff like this. So I'm not surprised, but that, I don't think Animal Crossing will have cloud saves.
They're making strides.
Not every
Small
game is going to have them, and that's going to be the biggest challenge to my vision of leaving my main Switch in the dock somewhere and taking the mini one with me. But
Yeah.
So overall, how has the Switch's year been for 2019? What could it do? What could Nintendo do to improve for 2020?
think it's been super solid. A lot of games that kind of redefined franchises this year, whether that's Pokemon, whether that's Fire Emblem, even Smash Brothers continues to be supported, and they've teased a second crop of DLC fighters, and the ones that we've had already have been really, really good. So super strong in terms of first party games. The value that third parties are seeing in porting their games over is obvious, whether that's we'll make it work ports like Overwatch to we've kept the heart and soul of the game intact like Witcher, but perhaps some of it around it isn't quite working, to these are just straight up fantastic version of a game like Dragon Quest. The fact that most developers are looking at a Switch bodes incredibly well for the future of that series. There's so many that platform, there's so many games that could do well on Switch if they were ported, and now that there's been success with that, I feel like it's got a bright future ahead of it. In terms of what they could do better, I think the cloud save stuff is probably a big deal, and this is nitpicking, but like considering that we've had a bunch of fantastic games, but still there's nothing been quite like set the world on fire in terms of the way that Breath of the Wild did. I feel like Animal Crossing is going to be perhaps that game. I hope it's going to be that game. I have some reservations about it.
I'm a little nervous, but
but like that's going to be a game that a lot of people are going to show interest in, and I feel like it's going to be one of the big talking points of next year. So at the very least, it stands to have one major tentpole game next year. So yeah, just small nips and tucks more than like this is disaster like
back to the drawing board.
Yeah.
Callie?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Nintendo has its big franchises, but also the Switch has had so much support from third parties and supporting indie games, having a lot of indie games. Like I played a lot of Baba Is You on Switch, Goose Game, Sayonara Wild Hearts I played on Switch as well. Having that indie library just bolsters it even more, and that's something that has been really positive for the Switch in the past. And so I really would like to continue. Like I'd love to get Disco Elysium on the Switch, something like that, So I hope to continue to see good, solid ports on Switch in addition to the major franchises. And then I would love Joy-Con drift to not be a thing. I just lost another Joy-Con to Joy-Con drift.
Rest in peace.
And battery life. I think battery life could stand to improve. That would be like a big thing for me as a version with Bluetooth for my AirPods and battery life improvements.
Yes. Completely agree.
Yeah.
I mean, touch wood, haven't been hit by Joy-Con drift yet, but so many people have.
Yeah.
It's kind of ridiculous that we're 2 years down the line and that's still happening. But overall, a fantastic year for the Nintendo Switch. Make sure to stick around on GameSpot. We'll be revealing our Game of the Year 2019 on December 17th. The deliberations are happening now. It's getting all tense. But we also have report cards for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC, so you don't want to miss that. And thank you so much for joining us.